I'm David Syiemlieh, son of George Reed and Quinestina Syiemlieh. On the 25th of the last month, at around noon, I got a phone call from Delhi, and it was the Home Ministry informing me that I've been selected and nominated is the better word for the Padma Shri. There are two quotations that I hold ever in my life. One is thorough, which is the motto of my dear school in Kalimpong. Thorough in the sense that in all aspects of life we have to be thorough in whatever we do, say, think, and act. And I do remember one year when I went to Kalimpong for the school birthday, there was a card read out with a message. May bad luck follow you every day of your life, but never overtake you. And that has stuck in my mind, because we will have bad luck following us, but it should never hinder us from going ahead in life. I'm David Syiemlieh, son of George Reed and Quinestina Syiemlieh. Grew up in Laban and Lumparing and moved to Malki after a short period of residence at NEHU. I turned 72 on the 22nd of January this year. Well, if you look at my frame, you would see me not that interested in sports and physical exercise, which I regret sometimes. But I do potter around the wonderful garden that I have at home. I used to grow a lot of vegetables, beans, turnips, and other vegetables. I used to grow more of vegetables than flowers. Not that I don't like flowers, but I was a specialist in growing daffodils, which I had brought from Scotland years ago. And unfortunately, they are not blooming this year for reasons unexplained. Other than that, I love going through manuscripts and maintaining manuscripts and having a collection of old books. My oldest book is more than 150 years old, and I have a collection of translations, very many of the texts into English and Khasi. I have a book on Greek history going back to 1879, and so I love keeping old books and treasure them immensely. As a young boy, at the age of 5, I went along with my elder brother to Dr. Graham's Home's school in Kalimpong. The journey was arduous in the sense that, having taken a 5-hour trip as a young boy down to Pandu Ghat at Guwahati, crossing over by a ferry and taking a train to Siliguri, arriving Kalimpong in early February 1958. I was admitted into the kindergarten, and I remained in Dr. Graham's Home's Kalimpong for 13 good years. It was the best part of my school life. Never shifted school, a loyalist to Dr. Graham's Homes, and a school that has nurtured me and made me. I went to school with my elder brother. 4 years later, my younger brother Robert and younger sister Kim also joined me in Dr. Graham's Homes. And we all did exceedingly well. I remember one prize distribution. 4 Reeds, as we were known then, went up to receive awards. And it was in class 11, which was equivalent to the pre-university examination here in Shillong, that I got the Dux Prize in school, the first in the subject of geography, which was my first academic love, and health science. I even beat the girls at health science in school. We had a wonderful teacher, Miss Parmar, who was our teacher in health science. Going to Kalimpong was a wonderful experience in the sense that we had a wonderful Christian atmosphere, a very liberal Christian atmosphere, and with friends coming from Nepal, Bhutan, Sikkim, and all over India. I completed my schooling with the Indian School Certificate in December 1970, and then returned to Shillong to find my place in Lumparing and the reunion, in a sense, with Mummy and my siblings, who were then very, very young. It was in the summer of 1971 that I got admission in St. Edmund's College. I preferred St. Edmund's College because they had history honors. They didn't have geography honors, which I had wanted to do, but they had history honors. And I do not regret it because I've become something of a specialist in history. But I must narrate an incident in my seeking admission in St. Edmund's. Brother Vera was the most kind-hearted principal we have ever known. And after looking through my ISC records, he said, David, you're given admission in St. Edmund's College. And he said, pay the fees. And I asked him, how much fee do I have to pay? And he said, 123. I put my hand in my pocket and I said, brother, I have only 10 rupees. And he said, you are admitted, my dear friend. And in acknowledgement to the effort that he made in giving me a place in St. Edmund's, 3 years later, I got the first position in history in the university. So I credit it all goes to Brother Vera and the very kind-hearted man that he was. Well, then I graduated from St. Edmund's with a degree in honors in history in 1974. And very fortunate for me, as also for very many others, the Northeastern Hill University was founded in the year previous. And history department was set up in 1974, to which I got admission. And I pursued my master's degree in NEHU between 1974 and 1976. And there again, I excelled in a sense, I will say with humility, getting the first position in history. Life has been very good to me in the sense that whatever I wanted to do has come my way, in the sense that I pray and God leads the path open for me. Soon after my post-graduation from St. Edmund's College, I got a teaching job in St. John's School, teaching primary children. So my career begins as a primary school teacher in St. John's School up in Nong Tsumai. And it was while teaching in St. John's School that an advertisement was seen in Shillong Times, the 4-page Shillong Times of those days, it's a very small format, for a lecturership in St. Edmund's. And I applied, went for the interview, and I was selected for the post in St. Edmund's. And I taught in St. Edmund's between 1977 and 1979. It was a wonderful experience in the sense that I had mentors who were kind to me in the teaching that I was assigned. And the first experience of teaching undergraduates was a very stimulating exercise. While in St. Edmund's, an advertisement was read by me in the newspaper again, calling for candidates for lecturership Northeastern Hill University. And I applied, went for the interview, and was selected. And that was the beginning of a rather long career as a teacher in NEHU, beginning 1979 till 2011. While I was in the university, at the position that I held as professor of Department of History, I was invited to become a university administrator, first as Dean of Student Welfare, then as College Development Director, Proctor, and also Control of Examinations, NEHU. These were done simultaneously with full-time teaching and in the afternoon and the evening function in these administrative capacities. I also held for a period of time the position of Pro-Vice Chancellor, Northeastern Hill University. And it was these experiences as a university administrator in different capacities that I believe the Government of India made it possible for me to go to Arunachal as Vice Chancellor of the Rajiv Gandhi University. I was there for but 8 months. And the reason being that another appointment came to which I had not applied at all, as the President of India appointing me as member of the Union Public Service Commission. Well, much of what I've written, in fact, all that I've written is in English. I have never mastered the Khasi language written form in any way to be sufficiently capable of writing in Khasi. My first book was published in 90, and that was British administration in Meghalaya. This was my Ph.D. dissertation, which I had got on the award of my Ph.D. in 1985. It was published shortly after with some revision, and it is a seminal book in the sense that I had looked up a number of archives, and I traveled extensively for this research, going to Delhi for several months, Calcutta for several months, London, Edinburgh, Nottingham University, and other universities abroad for the data collection. I'm a very fierce archivist in the sense that I draw my material from archival sources, and I have multiple sources to use for one citation, in the sense that I collate a lot of material and sift through the material to choose what will become significant in the writing of history. If that was my first, the next was a request from a dear father in Sacred Heart Theological College to write a book on a short study of Christianity, the Catholic Church in Nagaland. It's a small book, but it's again another seminal book for the Catholic Church in Nagaland. But more important than this, perhaps, is a book that was published while I was in the UPSC. While I was in the UPSC, I would work on my research on Saturdays and Sundays, going to the archives and into the libraries. This book I had written while I was in the UPSC, but it took me a good 10 years to write. It's a collection of 4 very secret documents on the Northeast, giving a cultural perspective and a political perspective of what possibly could be the Northeast after independence. I won't go into the details of it because it's rather controversial, but the British wanted to make a crown colony / a protectorate on Northeast India of the hill areas of Northeast India and Burma. That plan collapsed. But the important part about this book is the anthropological notes that these British officers, Sir Robert Reid, the governor of Assam, Andrew Clow, his successor. Yes, the collection of essays over here are from the notes of Sir Robert Reid, governor of Assam, Andrew Clow, his successor, Philip Adams, and James Mill. 2 of them were secretaries to the government of Assam, 2 were governors. This book has an Indian edition published by Sage. It had a British edition, and it also had an American edition. And it's done exceedingly well and is being quoted extensively by scholars. Another book that I have, which took me a good 2 years to write, was Faith and Hope. This was given as an endowment lecture in Calcutta. It talks about the establishment of Christian faith in Northeast India, beginning with the Portuguese presence in Northeast India. Very few scholars and readers in Northeast India know that the Portuguese were present in Northeast India in small settlements as mercenaries. And this was doing exceedingly well. It was in one of those years when I visited Scotland that I was able to get the memoir of Robert Reid, Anecdotes of an Indian Life. And I wrote to the Earl of Balcarres for permission to use the biography of his great-great-grandfather, the Robert Lindsay. And I asked the Earl of Balcarres to give me permission to have the use of the picture. This was a portrait drawn by the daughter of Robert Lindsay. Robert Lindsay was the superintendent of Sylhet in the 1770s, and in this memoir of his, he writes about a visit to the Jaintia Raj and hunting with the Jaintia Raja. It's the first account of any European visiting the Khasi and the Jaintia Hills. In one of the letters which the Earl of Balcarres writes back to me, I had asked him, I had noted in your notes that your great-grandfather had taken arrows and different implements used by the Khasis back to Scotland. And he writes, alas, Unfortunately, they have been lost over time. But who knows, there'll be somebody who'll make a trip to the Earl's house and go through the museum therein and be able to get those implements that were taken from the Khasis. Another book of mine, and it's not exclusively on the Khasis, but it's on Northeast India, is They Dared to Hope. This is a history of the Holy Cross congregation that started in Bengal 1858. And this book tells the story of how the Catholic Church came from Dhaka into Sylhet and into Mizoram, Tripura, Assam, and even into Meghalaya. It took me another good 10 years to write. But in all my research, I've traveled extensively. And one of the wonderful experiences that I've had was as a Fulbright scholar in the United States in the year 1999, 2000. I was there for a good 8-9 months as a scholar in residence in the University of Notre and researching in their library. My wife was able to join me. Ruben, my younger son, was able to join me and went to school there. And our elder boy also made a trip to join us on our return back home. They Dared to Hope is a history of the Catholic presence in Northeast India. I was also able to go to France, Le Mans, France, and collect material in French, which I know nothing of, but I was able to have a sense of the importance and significance of a document, brought these documents back home and got them translated. Similar was the case of going to Rome for a whole month of data collection and getting material in French and getting it translated. I had use of a translator of a Holy Cross brother and a priest who gave me their many hours of translation, and I've utilized these books, these in They Dared to Hope. I've been able to write a number of books, and I have a publication list of about 20 books, both edited and authored individually. My latest publication will be Called to Dare: The Holy Cross and Salesian Missions in Northeast India. There are 2 Catholic congregations that have completed more than 100 years in Northeast India. But before this, let me tell you a very interesting episode in my history of the Catholic Church. Otto Hopfen-Müller was the first German missionary, Salvatorian missionary to the Khasis. He came in 1890. I, again, do not know German, but I got a visitor from a German gentleman while I was at NEHU, and he said, "Professor, please try and locate the grave of my great-great-grand-uncle, Otto Hopfen-Müller." The very next day, I drove to the bishop's house, the Anglican bishop's house, and told him the plea for locating the grave. And he said, "David, look through the archives in my office." And I looked at the archives, and there was a huge, very large map of the graveyard, the Anglican graveyard in General's Point. And very interestingly, the map showed a Catholic enclave in an Anglican graveyard. Usually in Christian burial places, they're exclusive to one denomination. But in this sense, the Anglicans were most kind, giving space to the Catholics in their graveyard. And I went to that graveyard immediately after locating the number of the grave. This was just before I went out to the United States as a Fulbright scholar. There was a Mali who took me to the Catholic enclave, and he showed me the mound where possibly the first Catholic persons to be buried were laid to rest. And I assumed, therefore, that number 1 and number 2 were the first German missionaries who had passed away in the Khasi Hills, because there was no conversion at that stage. That story is not complete there. Several months later, the Salvatorian congregation in Shillong wanted to exhume the grave. And they exhumed the grave, and remnants of wood and brass were seen, And I was looking for the spectacles of Otto Hopfenmüller, because surely he would have been buried with his spectacles. But in the slush and in the mud that rainy day, we could not locate the spectacles. But the remnants of that grave, whatever artifacts came out or remains, were put into a casket and have been buried in the Catholic cemetery alongside the cathedral. And there's a memorial to Mr. Father Otto Hopfenmüller. My next book, which will be out, will be called Dare to Hope, the Holy Cross and Salesian Missions in Northeast India. And it should be out I finished the editing of it, and I hope it'll be out soon. Very many of them are available in Sacred Heart Theological College. They have a wonderful museum and a library, and I'm sure that most of the books written by me and other authors are on deposit over there. And they have a liberal policy for scholars to make use of the books. So I would encourage young scholars who need the material written by historians such as me and others to go to Sacred Heart Theological College and browse through the archives and the library there. The books are also available on Amazon and Flipkart. On the Edge of Empire is no more available because Sage has closed its publication. They only publish journals. But anybody wishing to read up the books could be able to find copies available on a discount at Flipkart and Amazon. Literature and education. Yeah. I find these days that people are avoiding reading books. Everything is on electronic media, and there's nothing better than a book because it smells nice, it feels good. You can put it under your armpit, you can put it on a table, you can, when you are flying, the air hostess will not tell you to close a book. So there's a delight in reading books from a library. Publishers are finding it difficult getting good manuscripts, but I see these days a resurgence in writing. And there's even AI being used in writing. But AIs are not authors. They're not human beings. They don't have a sense of feel and a touch. And I still feel that research should be encouraged to the extent possible. And universities have done very well in this. Look at the work that has come out from NEHU through the folklore, through Khasi department, through English department and so on, political science. Wonderful. And I just hope other universities in our beautiful hills will have a publication program. I do know Martin Luther Christian University does have a program to publish texts and things, and we encourage them to do so. I've just received 2 hours ago an official letter which reads, "Dear Sir, I have the pleasure of informing you that the President of India is pleased to confer the Padma Shri on you in recognition of your exceptional and distinguished service in the field of literature and education. Please accept my heartiest congratulations. The award will be presented by the President at Rashtrapati Bhavan, New Delhi. The exact date and time of the ceremony will be communicated to you in due course. With regards, yours sincerely, Govind Mohan, who is the Home Secretary, Government of India." So this has just reached me, and it's the first official. It's something which I will treasure and frame up. On the 25th of the last month, at around noon, I got a phone call from Delhi, and it was the Home Ministry informing me that I've been selected and nominated is the better word for the Padma Shri, and it gave me great delight. I had a journalist friend sitting near me, Raymond, and he heard my conversation, and I said, "Raymond, you aren't to blabber out this to anybody until the official announcement comes." And then I moved to the other room where my wife was, and I informed her, and she gave me a wonderful hug for being a Padma Shri. I was asked whether the address on my communication was correct and the telephone number, and a communication would reach me soon, which is what I have just read out today. I'm most happy to receive the Padma Shri, an award that I've got and I have agreed to accept the award and will be soon going to Delhi to receive it from the hand of Rashtrapati Ji. It's an award that gives me humility in the sense that I've been able to work hard over the years and have been provided with a recognition. I accept this for the people of Meghalaya as also for my school, because my school is extremely dear and near to me. Not that I've forgotten my college, but St. Edmunds also has contributed in the making of David Syiemlieh. Very often I'm asked in interviews such as this, why is it that young men and women from our hills aren't able to pass the civil service examination? The civil service examination, if I may take one part of the question you have asked, is one of the most difficult examinations to get through. There's no pass or failure. It is either you make it or you don't. It's a combination of subjects that will involve a lot of hard study and conscientious study. Many years ago, my college, St. Edmunds, had a large number of candidates appearing for the civil service, and I'm happy to say that St. Edmunds College has had perhaps the largest number of chief secretaries and IAS and IPS officers among the colleges in Shillong. But that story seems to be over. The reason perhaps is that our young aspirants aren't able to work hard enough, or they're not directed to compete with those who are appearing the similar examination. But let me also say that the examination over the years has gone more and more difficult, and reservation has become so tight and competitive that our young men and women are not able to get it. But I would encourage them to do their best, and I'm sure in the years to come we will be able to find young men and women from our hills who join up the civil service. One of the issues that I always tell young students and aspirants is, don't aspire only for the IES. Do the IPS, do the accounts and other services available through the 22 different offices that the UPSC holds the examination for. Somehow we seem to be obsessed only with the IAS positions, but there are any number. I do remember a candidate coming to an interview in my board, and I said, why have you not applied for the civil service examination as the first choice? He said, sir, I will get it eventually, but I want to be given I have given a preference for the defense accounts. And once I get through the defense accounts, I'm into the service, I will study, and then I will move up. And I'm sure in time he did it. I had a very interesting incident on my return from Delhi one Christmas several years ago while I was still in the UPSC. Shifting through the very tight passage on the plane, I felt somebody touching me, and I turned around and I could see and recognize one of the candidates whom I had interviewed. And we shook hands and I said, well done. And I said, where are you? He said he was undersecretary in a particular ministry. And I said, I hope 20 years, 30 years from now, you will reach the highest position. So there are wonderful success stories that I've been able to narrate, and one day perhaps I would like to have a word with a concentrated effort on the civil service examination. But I give the example of two non-tribals. I'm using them with love and affection. I'm using the word non-tribals with love and affection in the sense that I don't want to make a distinction between them and anybody else. But if these two gentlemen were able to get through the civil service examination working hard from home, then I don't know why others cannot do so. As an academician, I would also encourage people to engage themselves in research. Good research is a painstaking exercise. Good research is an exercise which takes years to make fulfillment in, for instance, publishing books such as I have done and many others have done over the years. But we do get scholars sometimes who come and register with us, and they only want to find the answers through the internet. I said, you cannot do your research through the internet solely. You have to go to the archives. Spend months, spend years in the archives. collect your data. It was in 1988. I had gone to London for a research project, and I'm a Syiemlieh, and I thought it would be nice to do something on Tirot Singh, who's Syiemlieh. And between one file which I had on my table and another file coming up, I asked for the index of the Bengal judicial proceedings. And when the judicial proceedings came, unlike very many other scholars who would have looked up under Khasi Hills or Assam or Tirot Singh by name, I looked up under Dhaka. Why? I have a sense of locating material. And what I did was, I did not look up under what other scholars could have read and not got the material on Tirot Singh's death. I looked up under Dhaka, and there I found an entry on Tirot Singh. Yes, while I was in the India Office Library in London, I searched through the Bengal judicial proceedings, and I got a note which read, I have the honor to report for the information of government the demise of the ex-Raja Tirut Singh, a state prisoner under my charge, which event took place yesterday at 1 p.m. Now this was a wonderful find of mine which has contributed significantly to Meghalaya, because number one, it shows by name Tirot Singh dying while he was a state prisoner. He was not in jail. The general notion that we have is that Tirot Singh died in jail. And every year on the commemoration of his death anniversary, there are any number who make mention of Bupli Iyap Hapo Patak. Iklem Yap Hapo Patak. He died as a state prisoner. And I've been able to follow this up in archives in Delhi, that he was given a bungalow, he was given a palanquin to ride on, he was given a sentry for his safekeeping. He was provided an allowance which enabled him to live fairly well. The only thing is that he missed the hills. And the sad part about the story of Tirot Singh is that there was nothing more in the archives after the record that I have just read. The file was closed. But I would want to inspire my young friends that they should be fiery enough and as nationalists to appreciate the life and times of Tirot Singh and the great sacrifice that he made. And as a Syiemlieh, I'm more than happy to have discovered this for my people, for the state, and also for my tribe. I've not got a book on Tirot Singh, but I've got any number of papers. I've written in the Shillong Times numerous times and in journals on the research that I've made. And I hope and trust that it would be appreciated that we should recognize Tirot Singh as a state prisoner and appreciate that the British gave him a position which was befitting rather than him dying. In fact, I had been to the archives in Dhaka and I checked up the archival list. Tirot Singh's name did not feature as a common prisoner in the Dhaka jail. The records which are in Delhi and in London go to show that he lived as a respectable life as a state prisoner. There are two quotations that I hold ever in my life. One is thorough, which is the motto of my dear school in Kalimpong. Thorough in the sense that in all aspects of life we have to be thorough in whatever we do, say, think, and act. And I do remember one year when I went to Kalimpong for the school birthday, there was a card read out with a message. May bad luck follow you every day of your life, but never overtake you. And that has stuck in my mind, because we will have bad luck following us, but it should never hinder us from going ahead in life. So this is my last line in the interview for the youth. Aspire for good, aspire for what is best for you, and do well, my dear friends. Kublai. It's rocking. Hey, it's